former President Dmitry Medvedev said that whoever ends up being responsible for it will be completely and utterly destroyed. There is no negotiating. There is no talk with those kinds of people. Death for death was the word that he used. So I expect that once Russia has, identified exactly what happened, then we'll go forward with that. I do worry, though, that some may try to use this and actually claim that somehow it had something to do with the Kiev regime, which could potentially cause an escalation in that war. That's what I think we really need to pay a lot of attention to.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned that, sir, because even up till a few hours ago, Russia was not ready to rule out the fact that there could be a Ukrainian they could be involved in this. There could be an involvement from Kiev. But at the moment, of course, the US has given its assessment. The group behind it has also claimed responsibility for it. I wanted to understand from you, is a reform needed in Russia's intelligence apparatus? Because clearly it is a major intelligence failure.
Well, I mean, that's what we all face, frankly. Every country faces that nonstop 24/7, 365 threat of terrorism. Of course, we've, had our big one in 9/11. We've had a couple of smaller ones. You always have to be, on the guard here. And I'm sure that internally, though, that the Russian people won't be happy with it, and they'll want to try to find out exactly why they were not able to find out, especially if, in fact, these reports are true that the U.S. gave them intelligence that said this just 2 weeks ago. And if they still didn't catch it, that is an evidence of some pretty big problems domestically for Russia.
So one more aspect I want to just discuss with you very quickly. Now, these attacks don't happen out of the blue. There is always something which leads up to it. Is there any link? Was there any kind of a hint which could have, brought about this kind of an attack on Moscow? It doesn't happen overnight. It's not planned overnight. Does it have something to do with Putin's backing of Bashar al-Assad in Syria back in 2015, which obviously turned the civil war around? ISIS was against his regime at that point. Does it come from there? Is it rooted in some other incident? How do you see this?
Yes, it's part of a broader issue, because there's obviously a lot of people who are against ISIS-K, or all the branches of ISIS, not the least of which was the United States, which deprived them of their physical territory in the in Syria and in Iraq in 2019. And we've continued to have these counter-ISIS missions in both Iraq and Syria ever since. And we continue to have them listed as one of the major terror groups in the United States. In fact, in a U.S. testimony earlier this week in Congress, some of their leaders said that the ISIS-K still does represent a very serious threat, and that may have been prompted, in fact, by the intelligence we had on the possible attack into Moscow. But it just goes to underscore that you can't take your enemy lightly, and you have to be very, very vigilant.